Antler Up, episode 14. Jordan Linnen. Let's go.
Antler Up, Edmonton. Touchdown, Elks.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Antler Up. And if you're joining us via YouTube or via podcast, we thank you for taking the time for watching and for downloading. Don't forget to like, subscribe, rate to this Antler Up episode. And also, don't forget to subscribe to the Elks YouTube page for more great content like Antler Up. Our guest this week on Antler Up is Elks Running Backs coach Jordan Linnen. Jordan, how are you? Thanks for joining us.
Good, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
It's your first year as a professional coach, is it not?
Yes, it is. It's first year in the CFL as a professional coach.
How's it been for you?
It's been good. It's been a lot of learning. I've been taking it all in, taking it in stride, but been fortunate to work with a great group of dudes, so it's allowed me to learn kind of on my feet.
Let's go back. How'd you get the job? Talk about the process of interviewing and getting hired by the Elks.
So I was most recently coaching at the Division II level. I coached at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver. So I was there for about 3.5 years, going into my fourth year. Wasn't sure if I wanted to continue coaching at that level or if I wanted to move on. And so I kind of, going into November, decided I was going to probably take the year off. And then I got a chance, connected with Coach Jones through some mutual people that I knew. And there was an opportunity here for a running backs position and also some stuff in football operations. So it was something that I had wanted to do and something that I had already in previous seasons had interviewed at other places for. So it kind of was like a perfect storm and the timing worked out. But Coach Jones extended me an opportunity to come here and be a part of the staff and work with guys that I had known previous, like Jarius and Marcus Howell. So for me, it was a no-brainer, and it was a little bit of a leap of faith because I hadn't coached on offense, but it was also a unique opportunity for me.
Yeah, I want to get to that part later because you're a DB when you played, right? Yeah. Now you're coaching running back, so we'll get to that story and how that happened a little bit later on. Had you met Chris Jones before, or was this the first time you kind of been in contact with him?
That was actually the first time I had talked to him formally was over the phone. I had seen him in passing for my playing days or at, combines and things like that, but I had never actually formally had any conversations with Jones. So when he called me, got a chance to talk to him a little bit, and then I talked to Coach McAdoo, and then from there we kind of moved forward in the process.
Coach Jones has a reputation, rightly or wrongly, being a little intimidating, especially maybe the first time you talked to him. How was that for you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, you obviously noticed right away his southern drawl, but it was other than that, it was cool. I mean, he was very to the point, and he also kind of just told me what he was looking for and what he wanted, and then also gave me the opportunity to understand, like, hey, this is what I want out of the experience, and if those two things align, then it would work. If it didn't, it's all good. But he kind of just allowed me to kind of give him a little bit of a rundown of who I was too, so it was cool.
You have really paid your dues as a coach. I mean, when you look at your coaching resume, you started in the Prairie, not in the Prairie, in the junior league with Langley, and then you moved up to SFU. More responsibility at SFU, it looked like, in your second and third year there, and then you come to the pro ranks. You've done a lot of stuff so far. Yeah,
I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, it's been a lot of expedited learning and a lot of opportunities to kind of move up fast at a more rapid pace than probably some coaches. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's football to me. And getting to do different aspects of the football stuff, whether it was recruiting, coordinating, or coach special teams, or any of the other titles that I carried along the way, it was kind of cool because I wanted to be a little bit more well-rounded as a coach, and it allowed me to do other things in the football world that maybe I hadn't done as a player.
You mentioned some football operations stuff. What does that involve?
Yeah, I mean, everything right now for me has been kind of a mix of everything. I got to do stuff from, making sure we get players to and from the airport when we sign new players or if players have been released, making sure that we're, keeping track of personnel transactions around the league and around the NFL, helping just kind of do some overall kind of scouting and personnel stuff as well for G. Roy and for Jones. And then also just doing the day-to-day stuff like, hey, we got to get a player to an optometry appointment. All right, well, I guess I get to do that because I'm the low man on the totem pole. But, all those different aspects and just kind of being more well-rounded on the football operations side of things away from the coaching aspect.
Making sure new guys have a ride from the airport. You've been busy this year.
Man, very. But, fortunately, we were able to put a system in place where we had some external help. But it's definitely been a busy year for sure as far as transactions and bringing players in or helping players, move on.
Yeah, it's been busy on the transaction page, that's for sure. Playing days. I know you you had some time in the CFL, right? In BC and Montreal. Let's go back first, though. You started with the Langley Rams, right? Playing junior football?
Yeah, so my football journey is a little bit all over the place. But initially, out of high school, I went to Acadia University out in Nova Scotia. Was there for a year. Decided to come home. Had some family stuff going on. Came home to play junior the following year. Played junior for, I guess, would have been 3 years, maybe 4. And played, in Langley for the Langley Rams. And then from there moved on. Went back to school, went to the University of Manitoba. And then from there, I had time in Montreal. During that time in junior, I was also what was called a territorial exemption. So I got to play with the Lions, practice with the Lions for the 2011, 2012 seasons. And then from there moved on to going back to U of M and then moving on to Montreal.
All right. And did you get any games in with Montreal? You were on the PR with BC for a while, right?
Yeah, I was on PR for a while in BC, and then in Montreal I didn't play. I got through camp, and then that was it. I got released, and then I was back home. I guess that would have been 2015, so that was the last stop. And then I got brought back to BC briefly for a mini camp, and then that was 2016, and that was the last time I played.
Okay. And then you have to make that decision. How difficult was that to say, I'm putting the playing career over here and moving on to something else?
I mean, for me, it wasn't as hard as it is for a lot of people. I think I was in a position both mentally and emotionally, I guess, that I didn't really look at it as like that doom and gloom, that big cloud hanging over your head, like, hey, stop chasing the dream or get a job or whatever the, different little sayings are. I think for me, it was more of a peace of mind. I think I had moved around and sacrificed a lot of like personal opportunities and personal things to pursue football. So when it came to those moments, I was like, you know what? Going back to BC isn't a terrible thing. Being able to, experience whether it's friends' weddings or birthdays or, different things that were going on that I had missed out on years prior. I was kind of at peace with it. So it wasn't awful for me.
Yeah. Some guys it's tough, obviously. But
sure.
and did you make the decision right away you want to move on to coaching? I noticed you last played in 15 and you coached in 16.
Right.
So first, did you have to get a real job in between?
I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, again, I think I was one of those guys that always along the way kind of was able to do my own thing in terms of having opportunity to work. I worked in strength and conditioning, worked in personal training, did some stuff in like other areas and aspects, and was able to kind of have a flexible schedule. So it wasn't about getting a real job per se right away. I came back home with the intention of just kind of taking a second to step back. I still had opportunity to continue to pursue football. I just was in a place where I was like, you know what, again, I hadn't got to experience the weddings and the birthdays and all the different social things that I had missed out on. And so when I came home, I had no intention of coaching. It sounds funny and people laugh when I say that, but I was kind of a player that was a very intense person, both just kind of by nature and by my leadership, I guess. And so when it was about coaching, I was like, as a young guy, 25, 26, I don't know that I can separate the two. Me being a player and being a little bit more brash and in your face and then having to articulate my thoughts and feelings and talk X's and O's, I wasn't sure that those two things were going to align. I kind of got hoodwinked into coaching. I played, like I said, in Langley, and they had asked me, coming home from that, from being in Montreal, they were like, hey, do you mind just coming out and helping for spring ball? I was like, sure, it's 3 days, like no big deal. Went and helped out, and then from there they were like, hey, do you mind, coming to training camp? Just help out at training camp. I was like, sure, I'm around, like I'll do it. Helped at training camp, and then they're like, hey, do you mind sticking around for the season? And lo and behold, fast forward, 6-7 years later, here I am. But I think I was able to make the transition a little more smooth than I thought I would, and at the end of the day, I'm grateful for it because it put me in this position.
Was there a light going on moment where you thought, hey, I want to do this for a living now?
I wouldn't say there was a light going on moment. I think for me personally, I always loved the game. I still love the game. I think it's in me. I don't really think that it was like hey, I think I could do this. It was more like I love everything about football. I love what it brings. I love the camaraderie. I love the brotherhood. I love the tactical or the X's and O's aspect of it. I love what it can do to elevate group dynamics, things like that. So it was always a thing for me that I always gravitated towards, no matter what, whether it was coaching, whether it was, personnel things, whether it was, just even being involved in a team, atmosphere. I always loved the game. So I think that's what kept me involved with football. It wasn't so much like I think I can be a great coach. I was just like, hey, I love coaching, but I'll see what it takes me. So
this is your first year as a coaching pro.
Yeah.
What's the biggest difference you see? Because you've been with juniors, you've been with university guys. Right. Now you're coaching guys who are playing football for a living.
Right.
What's the big difference been for you?
I think, obviously at the end of the day, football's football. So I think the on-field stuff hasn't changed much. Obviously, the speed of the game changes, things like that. But I think the biggest thing I've noticed is just, how you handle personnel, how you handle dealing with the different, positional, relationships, or the, offensive, defensive, special team unit relationships. Because I think now at this level, if you're not adequate at your job, if you're incapable of doing the things that we need, we can move on and go find someone that is a little bit more capable or fits, what we need. So, the university level, you recruit a guy, he comes in, that you're committed to that guy for at least a year, if not longer, and it's a little bit different, right? At this level, it's, hey, we can try and, build that player to be the player we want him to be, but if he's not, then we can move on. We have that luxury, I guess.
You're starting to get a style as a coach, talking with players. Like, you got guys who've been in the game playing, like a guy like James Wilder Jr. He's been in the game a long time. He comes from a football family.
Right.
And now you're in your first year coaching, and you're his coach at the running back spot. What's that dynamic been like with the veteran players especially?
I think, the first part is always, are you old enough to be here? Or, how old are you? Like, let's see your driver's license. But no, I think overall, I think I'm fortunate to have a personality that where, I'm always going to be receptive and friendly and a coach's player per se. But I think I'm also able to articulate, the expectations, the standards, the understanding of what we need to do as a group, as a position. So I don't really have that worry of like, hey, if I say something, it's not being taken serious. I think I've been fortunate with guys like Wilder and guys like Grimes and some of the older veterans that have been around this league. There's a lot of mutual respect, so it doesn't come down to hey, I don't know if he's good enough to be coaching my position specifically. So, when I say something, guys listen, and if there's, any kind of confusion or things that we need to address, we can pull each other aside and have those conversations.
Dynamics, I'm guessing, because I know that this coaching staff, most of them have been together for a long time.
For sure.
Like a long time.
Very.
How tough was it kind of getting in that inner circle for you?
I think, again, that goes back to just, Coach Jones giving me an opportunity. I don't think Jones is a guy that doesn't bring a guy that he believes in, or a guy that fits the dynamic, or that, inner circle, that brotherhood dynamic. And I think one thing he explained to me on the phone, and Coach McAdoo kind of reaffirmed when I talked to him before I took the job, was, they're big on loyalty. So at the end of the day, as much as I'm a great coach, or as much as I'm a young coach and working my way up the ladder, it's more about coming in, doing the right things day in and day out, making sure that I represent myself, those guys, the organization the right way, and then also too making sure that when it comes down to it, we're all, staying together. And obviously you see how the season's gone. We've continued to make sure that that's been the status quo.
Your time in BC would have lined up with Wally Buono.
Yeah.
Have you drawn as a coach? Have you drawn anything from what you saw Wally do?
I mean, I think, as a player, you kind of have your own perception of who the coaches are, and especially a guy like Wally, what he's done in this league is unprecedented in a lot of ways. And, also just his energy and the aura around him, right? He kind of has that Godfather mentality. You walk around in fear when he's in the building. But I think what I learned after I could step back and take the player mentality out of it was that, he was big on, again, doing things the right way. And I think the other part of it, too, was he held everyone to the same standard, regardless of years in the league, regardless of position. It was always, hey, do things the right way or you won't be here. And I think the other part of it, too, is there was a certain standard for how you were expected to do your job, even when he wasn't there. You know what I mean? So whether that's in the community, whether that's, out in the off season, like there was just a standard that was always set. And I think that's one thing I respect out about Wally is like down the road, you realize that that's why he was successful for as long as he was. Is he had that mentality and it never wavered, and he was consistent across the years in the league that he was in.
There's an old saying, a marketing slogan from EA Sports. If it's in the game, it's in the game. Absolutely. Well, Jordan was in the game. He'll explain that to us a little bit more on the second half of Antler Up. The Elks are looking to get back on track this week in Calgary as they play the Calgary Stampeders, likely the most anticipated game of the season. It's the Labor Day Classic. Elks at Stampeders from Calgary on Monday afternoon. It's a 2:30 start. You can watch it on TSN. You can listen to it on 6:30. Ched, 2:30 start time. On Ched, we've got the Countdown to Kickoff show beginning at 1 o'clock on Monday afternoon. And if you want to watch the game with some other Elks fans, well, why not head to Average Joe's in Sherwood Park for the Elks watch party? Lots of giveaways and lots of fun as you can watch the game with some other Elks fan and enjoy yourself. Elks and Stampeders, Labor Day from Calgary. The Antler Up podcast is recorded in the Joey Moss Championship Suite. The Joey Moss Suite opened in 2022 to honor Joey, his great legacy, and to remember one of Edmonton's greatest heroes. The Joey Moss Suite is a great place to watch an Elks game from. To learn more about how to purchase the Joey Moss Championship Suite for an upcoming Elks game, email partnerships@goelks.com. Born in Lethbridge?
Born in Lethbridge.
You didn't live there very long, though, right?
No, I was there for about 6 months. I couldn't tell you what it looks like, but I actually just got my.
It's windy. That's all I know.
Yeah, I just got my birth certificate reissued a couple days ago, and they're like, "You're born in Alberta?" I was like, technically, yes, but I couldn't tell you what Lethbridge looks like.
The bios I read on you, you grew up in Vancouver and San Diego?
Yes.
The San Diego angle. How'd you get there?
So my mom married a U.S. military serviceman when I was 10, and then became my stepdad, obviously, and throughout that time, the entire time of their marriage, we moved around because of the U.S. military. Yeah. So spent a lot of time in San Diego. He was based out of Naval Station San Diego for a number of years, as well as Washington, based out of Everett, and then we moved to Texas. My grandparents lived there as well. So being a military kid, just kind of typical, moving around a bunch, different deployments and different, stops along the way. But Vancouver and San Diego were the two primary places I spent most of my childhood.
When did football bite you?
Yeah, right away. It's funny, people that know me and know my situation know my mom's probably the biggest football fan in my family, even bigger than me. So she always kind of brought football around. We watched football as a family. I was always around the Lions organization as a kid just because I was in Vancouver. She had a lot of friends that played at the time. So it was always around me, and I think naturally I gravitated towards it. I didn't really start playing organized football until I was in the 8th grade or 7th grade, I guess. 7th grade was when I started playing organized football, but throughout my childhood, cousins, uncles, everyone was playing, so I was always around the game.
Did you get to many NFL games when you were living in the States?
I went to quite a few. I mean, I used to live literally a 5-minute drive, not even from Qualcomm Stadium, which is where the San Diego Chargers were based out of before they moved to LA.
All right, let's get to the EA Sports angle. This is something you've talked about a lot, and it's kind of your claim to fame a little bit. You were, what's the phrase, motion capture athlete for EA Sports. So I picture one of the guys in the Velcro suits standing in front of the camera. Tell me a little bit. First off, how'd the job come about?
So I was in Montreal. I got released, came home back to Vancouver, started working in strength and conditioning. Kind of was just doing that. Wasn't really focused on anything football related. I kind of wanted to decompress and step away. And I was sent an email that came to me, and I kind of disregarded it. It was very vague, very nondescript about what was actually going to be taking place. So I discarded the email, and then I got it a second time from another friend, and it was, hey man, just check this email out. I think you could fit what they're looking for. It's in Vancouver. Just take a good look at it. So I did. I ended up reading the body of the email, which I probably should have done the first time, and it was still kind of vague. But if you know football, you're like, okay, this is something football related. So I saw that. I saw what the pay was, and I was like, okay, let me just send an email. It's worth a shot in the dark. So I sent off an email, and it connected me with a guy named Mazio Royster, who runs a talent agency called 3rd and 1. They're based out of California, Los Angeles specifically. And so basically he was the one that's tasked with kind of casting all the athletes for EA, for Madden, other projects as well, but more specifically Madden. And he responded right away. He was like, hey, I've heard about you. We'd love to have you. We're obviously actually going to be shooting pretty soon, but I'd love to get you in future shoots. But if you could, would you come by and just kind of work out for us? We just kind of see how you move, because everyone else has been casted, had already been to a tryout. Sure, no problem. So I came through, went to the day that they were shooting on set. I did some movement before the day was to start for the shoot. And he was like, hey, actually, we have a contract here if you want to start today. So I was like, all right, took a shot at it, did it, thinking it would be like a one-off type deal. And, fast forward 6, almost 7 years later, I've been able to be consistently one of the few athletes that's got to do the motion capture as well as coordinate for the game.
So the last 7 years of Madden, you're one of the guys who are people are playing Madden. They're watching your body, basically.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, so basically, I mean, we're in like you said, the Velcro suits with all the markers, and we're on the sound stage. It's actually turfed, but we are on an indoor sound stage, and we do all the movements, all of the celebrations, all the sideline living world type stuff. We do a bunch of the different aspects of the game. So yes, it's us in terms of the physical movements, but they obviously take the animation and do that in post-production and stuff. But as far as the gameplay and stuff, yeah, all the real-time catches, all of the big contact, big hits. We've done some really unique celebrations, like the Lambeau Leap, stuff like that. So I've gotten to do all that stuff. So it's been really cool and really unique and fun.
I imagine it's a lot more hard work than it sounds.
I tell people this all the time. People are like, oh, you get paid. It's a cushy job. You're kind of just like doing like stunt work or TV work. I'm like, listen, there's no football job in the world where you're taking as many reps as we take in a day of shooting. Now, we get a lot of breaks and things like that, but it's kind of like, the producers and the game developers, they don't understand what football is. Football, a play happens, you get about 45 seconds to a minute in between. In there, that's like, hey, all right, let's do it again. Big collision, hey, let's do it again. Or you're running the length of the field, and it's like, hey, let's do it again. And so that's kind of where when I got into coordinating, I got to kind of help them understand, like, hey, you got to scale these things back because it is football, but it's not the type of frequency that you guys are used to doing.
So you get a chance to say, guys, that's good, but that would never happen in football.
All the time. There's we call them Madden moments or Madden like moves, because there's certain things that we do that is super unorthodox or unnatural, and they're like, hey, we just need this for the game, and then we'll kind of change the mechanics in post. And so we do some really awkward like twists and catches and things like that, or some hits like you're like, if I got hit like that, I probably wouldn't be playing football. But it's just kind of what they need, and that's the one thing that we get to help the producers do is kind of bridge the gap of like authenticity and animation and gameplay. So
and that's ongoing still. You're still doing that?
Ongoing. I'm here, so my focus right now is this. But they've been shooting continuously, and now coming out of COVID, they've kind of gotten back into a more regular kind of semi-schedule.
Cool. And I noticed too, you're doing some TV stunt work too.
Yeah.
Have we seen you on anything?
I'm not sure. I mean, I've been in some stuff. Most notably, I guess Superman and Lois. I got to do some stunt work for their TV series, which is in their second season now. I got to do some stuff on Riverdale, and then also just most recently, before I came out here for the start of the year, was in a reboot that's going to be coming out this spring for Grease. Grease is doing like a spin-off of the movie into like a TV show format, okay. So we got to do some stunt work for them as well.
I imagine all the stuff that shoots in Vancouver, you got a chance to be on if they need you.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate, definitely been able to be on some stuff that's kind of come about just through the network and being in the city as well. For
sure. You got an IMDb page yet?
I don't think so. I haven't set it up, so it's not on me. If okay. There is one, it's not me that's running it. But,
all right. Okay, let's wrap things up with Jordan with the Red Zone. Final three questions for Jordan Linnen, Elks running back coach. First CFL game you ever saw?
Ooh, that's a good one. First CFL game I ever saw, it would have been at BC Place, probably somewhere 97, 98. So I want to say it was probably BC against Hamilton, but I can't remember exactly.
Okay. Best football memory?
Best football memory? Oof. I think probably going to and losing, unfortunately, the national championship in junior. I think that was a cool moment for a group of guys that had been together for a while. So it was a good one for me.
That was with Langley?
Langley, yeah.
Yeah. What year was that?
2012.
2012. All right, last one for you. Biggest name in your phone?
Biggest name in my phone? Probably Odell Beckham.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. Fortunate to have the same agent when I played, so I got to meet him and get to know him pretty well through our time, just through our agent and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool. What kind of guy is he like?
Great dude. Absolutely great dude.
Yeah, nice. Excellent. All right. Jordan, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. It's good to get to know you a little bit. And congratulations on getting the job and continued success with it.
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
All right. He is Jordan Linnen. I'm Morley Scott. We'll see you next time on Antler Up.
Antler Up, Edmonton. Touchdown, Elks. He'll walk the dog to the end zone. Antler Up, Edmonton. Touchdown, Elks.